Much thanks to all the speakers. I've got a lot of notes. Hopefully I can make some sense of them within the time constraints, which are obviously very severe. As Christian's paper points out, the landscape of research production has greatly diversified from the days when a few institutions ran the show and quality was expressed in their consensual values. However, I would like to just put a few cautions on his picture of multiple sites of production, multiple accountabilities, movement towards potential anarchy, decentralization. It's true that some of these things are going on, but I think it's also true, firstly, that as Alessandro Del Fanti, who accountably moved from down the road in Milan to the wilds of Canada, has pointed out, a lot of these individual heroes in do-it-yourself bio are caught between being individual heroes and going their own way and developing relations with big bio companies. And some of them are already doing, as it were, night jobs in the small bio labs, other than the day jobs in their companies. And particularly in genomics, I think we've seen a lot of industrial consolidation. We've also seen industrial academic funding consortia of a really quite new type and potentially threatening type, I think, such as the Structural Genomics Consortium. I don't know if people know about this, but members pay $8 million up front to name a drug target, research it under a confidentiality agreement, and then claim it as open science when the structure is publicly put in the public domain subsequently. So I think there are problems of quality or of mismatches between values, skills, and information requirements, as I prefer to see it at all scales. Similarly, on the demand side, led by public engagement with environmental science, and here we're going back to Alan Irwin, public and political expectations for science have increased. Clearly, however, as Togo's paper brings out, change has been not of the same kind or the same pace everywhere. The stark contrast between scientific truth and public values in his story of Fukushima demands a much more symmetrical approach to quality assessment. Similarly, Lapo reminds us in her story of the Okavango Delta that many planning processes can hear local voices, but only in the context of prior framings of the issues by others. I suspect that there are many similar cases of external framings, even within so-called extreme citizen science. Cognitive or epistemological justice is a tough target to try and achieve. So what are the answers? How might we develop PNS thinking to encompass an approach to quality that's still discriminate enough to have uses, but recognizes science as highly multidisciplinary, quality is highly contextual and multidimensional in character, and above all, both evolving. I very much like Dave, apart from the sheer entertainment value of his presentation, I liked David's formulation about creating and policing spaces and processes where actors with differing powers and goals engage in good quality, multi-level, adaptive conflicts. I think this is the process is essentially iterative, adaptive. Values, of course, start to be as divergent, and they change to be even more divergent quite often. And I think this is very much in line with some of the things that other people, including Silvio, were saying this morning about the need to keep the politics of all this alive. I also found Simon's PNS approach to improving quality in chemical research is interesting by adding in the social, ethical issues and acknowledging uncertainty. I'd be quite interested to see, Simon, if you could develop this, perhaps as a thought experiment, apply it to other fields like food safety, for example. Quite interesting approach. If I've got time, how many seconds have I got left?
You still have 2 minutes.
I still have 2 minutes. It's amazing. Okay. Okay, well, just one last suggestion. It's really about quality culture, which I thought was an interesting and important formulation this morning, and I think a lot better than discussion about control and regulation, which has crept in more latterly. Who might be the guarantors of quality inside this new diverse ecology of S&T? And do we need new individual or institutional intermediaries to embody or promote it? Some 12 years ago, I was involved in running a workshop which asked why connoisseurship has not developed in science as it has in arts and the humanities. People specialising in externally valuing the arts and humanities and artifacts, but this hasn't happened to the same extent in science. Be that as it may, I would like to suggest that we ask universities to develop a new curatorial role in relation to knowledge, as well as the productive role, in relation to wider knowledge produced in their areas, and I mean areas both geographically and in terms of knowledge scope, and to ask them to house, as some already do, fab labs and do-it-yourself bio workshops and the like. One more sentence. This would allow them to operate something like traditional innovation incubators, but incubators of a new style of responsible innovation, reconciling economic development, distributional equity, and democratic accountability, in helping to define and develop quality, as I think we should try to define and develop it, in terms of what is good for what. Thank you.